measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Sven P, Curved Fart, Pablo de la Cruz, Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Playing Poem, Vitali Z, Colton James, Survive the Spin, Thomas van der Zander, Measured Flat, Tiers Morgan, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, J Mel's 24, Yu Unamento, Iron 26, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Young Cat, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Links, as I say, to Patreon are below this video. But with that, I will hand across to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Yes, it was kind of difficult to get through. Did the guy who originally make the video purposely speed up whenever Mr. FED was talking?
Yeah, there was a few bits that went into like 2.5 times speed or something. But yeah, there was a lot of waffle to get through about bloody figure eights and shit like that. But I thought he was pretty spot on when he was getting to measurements.
Yeah, he didn't do too bad. It just took a while to get there, and he had to talk through everybody who was saying nuh-uh, nuh-uh. I've been watching a couple different videos. Didn't he for a while go on and on about stuff unrelated to the, he was talking about the using stellarium and trying to find the analemma or something like that from South Africa.
Yes, something about that. I didn't really follow too much on that or haven't looked into that aspect of the conversation.
I tried to follow it, and I followed it fairly well because I kind of like looking into that kind of stuff. There's a Facebook group called Firmament Trackers that I'm on that have been pretty seriously looking at the star trails and how things move, and they were probably one of the first groups that I was in that totally knew that you could probably see a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. So they were already, before TFE, they were already just rolling their eyes and saying, yeah, you can probably see one. And letting it go. It was icing on the cake when Nathan just basically said, "Oh, you measured the sun there. Great. Okay. Where are the guns?" But yeah, most of that video was just could have been just cut down by him just pointing out elevation angles.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of waffle and stuff that didn't need to be in there, but it was just nice to hear someone who pretty much had the gist. Have you ever came across that dude before? I've never seen his username before.
No, and I literally do not do any of the Discords or any of those things, other than Flipside here and whatever the couple of Discord servers that we've used in the past. I try to stay as minimalist as possible dealing with Discord.
Yeah, I'm not really one for going and arguing in different Discord groups myself either.
Well, I came up in the 90s on email discussion groups, chat forums like, AOL chat, and actually before that, even on bulletin boards and stuff like that. And so I'm an old hat. That's why I write a lot, is because it used to be you didn't have enough bandwidth to do talk, or especially video, back in the 90s. So you just messaged by long email chats. Yeah.
Why you leave the long paragraphs and like half books that you leave in Master B? I got
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that comes from the 90s. That's when we had one group, and who else bought them out? Yahoo groups bought them out. All those email discussion groups, man. You'd get either a digest or a bunch of individual emails in your box for a group that they're all talking to each other by email threads. Yeah. Managed and admin for a few of those, and a couple of them with like, a couple thousand members. That gets fun. That's where I learned. That's where I learned that only 10% at best of any large group will actively participate in any group, and of those, probably 2 to 5% will actively participate.
Yeah, they took the concept that already existed with message boards and live chats and just added a video to it, and then you have YouTube. So what you can imagine or remember as being a message board is the exact same formatting that you get in what we call comment sections, and what you used to have in live stream chats has still got the exact same name, the live stream chat. The only difference was in an AOL live stream chat, the chat was live constantly, and you'd go in and there'd be nobody in there, and you'd wait 10 minutes and one person would be there, and then at a peak time it might have 30 people in there. Whereas with the YouTube live chat, there's no permanent live chat, there's just a live chat while a live show's on, but the concept and the formula is exactly the same.
And all you could do is write.
Yep. And my problem was I always had a lot to say. So couldn't get my point across in just.
No, not you.
Yeah, nah, not me. And I can understand the probable frustration when when I'm trying to think and talk and form my opinion or sentence or something, versus when you see when I'm writing like, 1,000-word comment or something like that. And that 1,000-word comment, took me 20 minutes to write.
And what would be some of the discussions?
Well, I moderated an alternative education discourse list,
Thrilling.
and yeah, mostly on homeschooling, but also on all forms of alternative education and how public schools suck. And that had probably about 2,500 subscribers. There was like one list. It was called One List, and there was another name that bought it out, and then finally Yahoo Groups got it out. But it's basically the concept is an email discussion group list. And so all the texts weren't live. They were all just via email. So it wasn't a live chat. It was an email chat. And you would open up a digest every day and see all the messages that people would write in one big long email. And you'd read through the threads. So I had about, I don't know, over the years, 1,000 to 1,200, maybe.
Were you
almost.
involved in any flat earth threads?
No. I was alternative education, homeschooling, and some Christian apologetics, and just other small groups. Kind of like now, you find out I've got like 200 subscriptions to YouTube channels that I don't even remember subscribing to anymore. So I tell you though that that experience, being able to manage thousands of people, and I did a statewide homeschooling networking group that way until we went mostly to Facebook, and managing that many people and all these opinions, and being a dad amongst 99% women homeschoolers. Pretty fascinating experience. And then after Yahoo Groups decided to stop doing the email discussion lists because Facebook pretty much screwed got everybody on Facebook.
You mean Friends Reunited?
The what?
You mean Friends Reunited?
Friends Reunited.
Yeah.
Oh, Facebook was called Friends Reunited.
Didn't just come out. It wasn't just Facebook. When you say Yahoo shut down because Facebook messed, no. Friends Reunited and MySpace and various other platforms similar to that came out. And then people left the message boards and forums and email threads behind them for a different experience where it was unified on one site.
Yes, I'm not saying that. Yeah, that is what naturally happened. It's just people migrated from one platform to the other. I was just saying that the email discussion groups, which I had been a part of for 10 years, once they decided to close down, and I realized that there was 10 years, millions and millions of pages or words or whatever, posts that had gone on in these forums, and they just disappeared. Gone. It affected me a little bit.
In ether.
Pardon?
Dawn and the ether.
It would be interesting to see if the Wayback Machine or any of the archive histories and stuff, if the old AOL and One Group and Yahoo Groups forums still exist anywhere. Because that changed my paradigm with the internet. I finally had to come to grips with the reality that once everything's digital and no one exists or communicates or works in paper and physical reality for most of their stuff, nothing is going to be archived for the future. My kids will have millions of pictures, over their lives, and a lot of them that I've taken, that will probably not survive or be accessible in the very short future in their lifetimes.
Oh,
I don't know. It's kind of, when you spend your life, part of it writing a lot of stuff and documenting a lot of stuff. You kind of gives you a little heart pangs. It's all going to burn eventually. It's all going to go away.
yeah,
anyway.
that's where I was going next.
Yeah. It's all going to burn, but you don't think about that stuff. And when you do, it's kind of like, wow, that's kind of.
Or you need physical copies of all that stuff. You could do that too and try to avoid the digital convergence.
Not digital convergence. The word I would use is digital entropy. That is to say, like everything, even though there's an impression given that there's no end to how long something can last in a digital format, I disagree. I would say that, like everything, it's subject to the second law. Eventually it'll decay and fade away. I've said that about YouTube. They'll reach a point. I'm only thinking in this way because I was writing it in the book. Not what I was writing, but how I was writing it. For the most part, there's going to be plenty of exceptions to this rule, but for the most part, I wanted to write it in a way where that digital entropy didn't affect it, or affected it less. Yeah, kept its longevity high. So when I'm describing things like having a live stream chat with a thread that goes up, what we would call a chat, I didn't want to put it in that language because it's not necessarily self-explanatory, even 20, 50, 100 years from now. I don't think it'll be self-explanatory. I think you'll need to have some sort of linguistic explanation for what those things mean. Now, if you try and, by comparison, it's probably only been 20 years, try and describe something like a chat forum or a message board, it's quite an alien concept to describe to like a 15 or 18-year-old, I would suggest. Right? You'd have to go some to actually explain. So if you put yourself in that particular position where you're writing a book 20 years ago and the flat earth debate is prevalent in one of these message threads and forums, and then, like you say, you're heartbroken that there's been 20 years or however many years, let's say it's 5 years worth of discussion threads discussing the topic of Earth and its nature and the progression that's happened, just get wiped out because YouTube has shut down, Yahoo's shut down, AOL's decided the message forums aren't worth it anymore. There's a section of the internet that just vanishes. Like I say, we wouldn't need the Wayback Machine if it wasn't the case. And obviously not everyone hosts their sites all the time. But you just assume, well, it's digital, it's going to stay in, in accessible means forever. No, not at all.
it's only going to be available in your memory. And, I'm 64 and I'm realizing that my memories, how am I going to put it? I don't think my kids will have as vivid of memories of their childhood growing up as I did.
Why?
I don't know how I'm trying to express it. It's like,
I'm disliking what you're putting down. Maybe.
okay, well, yeah, you don't have to approve of this.
It's not that I disapprove, right? It's just it's very alien to how I behave. So I like to perceive the moment at hand and value that very highly. And when something's happened, yeah, you dwell on it, but often that's a waste of your time. Like the bit that should be taken as the most precious right in the moment, if you dwell upon things. Now, I'm not so extreme that I'd say, never, what's the saying? Never complain, never explain. I think that's too extreme, right? You can ponder things and you can mourn things that you've lost or mourn people that you've lost, circumstances, missed opportunities. You know what I'm getting at. In your case, photographs. I get it. But by the same token, it's so far down the list that when you say, well, potentially, let's say you worry that your kids won't be able to experience the moment where you got your first car and you've got photographs and video of it, and that was put on a message thread and it disappears. It's like, but who values that? The kids will want to remember you, and I'm absolutely certain that they'll have a photo of you, but do they necessarily need to have the depiction of you getting your first car and the delight that gave you, when the delight that gave you in that moment is so much more precious? But what's precious but fleeting? Once it's gone, right, it's gone. So having it documented so you can ponder it and remember it, again, in the same way as it's not as necessarily wrong to ponder and mourn, it's the same level when you look back on fond memories. It's like, well, what's happening right this second? Are you missing out on something? I'm not talking about FOMO, like the fear of missing out on something in the moment, but I'm saying that anything that is potentially happening right this second is far more valuable to you than that lost memory, in my opinion, on balance. But that's just my opinion.
But here. Okay, I think I'm trying to. What you're saying now, what's here in the moment, right? What's the predominant thing we see with something that's going on outside? People have got their cameras up and they're viewing what's going on in the moment with their cameras. They're not in the present. They're behind the camera, which is where I have all my lot of experience with. I've been behind the camera since middle school, and viewing everything through the camera. All right. I think where I'm going with this is that this generation is not living the moment as well as I remembered it, because I didn't have a camera with me. I wasn't documenting my life as I was going through it. I was living it. People, I think, are documenting stuff. They're storing it in their cameras to save for later. They never go back to it. I never go back to a lot of my old photos.
So you're saying instead of living the moment through the videoing it and then missing out on.
Yeah. And it's just like a TV show. Do you remember every TV show you've watched? You can literally, I think that someone who documents their life, so, selfies everywhere. Here's my dinner. Here's what I ate on Tuesday and stuff like that. I think that that generation, that mindset, that way of living your life is disassociating people from directly living their lives. And all of that stuff that is in the cloud, stored and whatever, and they think is safe so that they'll have to go back. Well, I don't remember that 4th of July when the family was there, when grandma was there watching us with the fireworks and stuff like that. Now grandma's gone. I'm going to go back to my digital, to my videos to see grandma again. And they're gone, or the power's out, or, whatever. They're gone. They won't have as good a memory of grandma there at 4th of July because they were behind the camera with it. They didn't live it. They were documenting it.
Right, exactly. Did you spend time with grandma? Did you find out what grandma loved, how she lived her life because it was interesting to you, or not? Did you just sit with her at the end when she had dementia because you felt guilty? Or did you, spend plenty of time in her company finding out little bits and bobs about what she's about? Now, when you're a tiny child, you're not that interested in grandma. But when you become an adult, you're like, oh, right, that's my connection to the past that I can have in the moment as an experience with a person that I'm related to. That's precious. Whereas having the third party film it so that you can show it to somebody, you're like, okay, so that's you sat with grandma asking her about when she used to be a dancer. Okay, that's interesting. But it's not the moment. The moment was experienced by the person that was having the conversation. Now, if you're not having the conversation because you're behind the camera, then that's a travesty, right? I see that all the time.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. But back in the day, I used to go and watch bands. I used to go all over the country, up and down, watching festivals and live bands and stuff like that. Mainly because that was part of what I was studying at college. There was music, lighting, theatre, sound, all that stuff was all part and parcel of what I was doing. So I was truly fascinated with it and loved going out and watching live bands. And some of them you develop favourites for them. And then when you go out and see them, right, so I'll give a very specific example. Faithless were, at the time, my favourite band. And I'd go and I'd watch them over and over again. At one point, when I was like, I'm kind of getting sick of going to the festivals, I've got a girlfriend, I don't necessarily need to be seeing the same bands over and over again, and, I'd done it. But I was at a festival, and I'd got one of the later, or, the newer iPhones at the time, and it did exceptionally well in terms of its video reproduction. I was like, this is actually a really quite almost professional grade video that it can produce. So at that particular festival, I'm like, I'm going to film my favourite bands. So I did. So I filmed, so the ones I'd already seen, I'd already been to their gigs at multiple different locations when I filmed them. Now, don't get me wrong, people were a little bit, what's he doing at the time? And I can't remember, I can't put a year on it, but it was prior to everybody doing it. That's to say, if you now film a concert professionally with a proper dolly cam, what you'll see in the audience is dozens of people holding their phone up. Now, in the video that I've got, nobody in the crowd is filming it. It's only me filming it. That is to say, everyone else is having the experience that they should have, and I'm capturing that experience just so I've got it, and I publish that to YouTube, right? So the memory's there, and I can go back. It's on my Oakley Core channel. It's just Faithless doing God is a DJ and a few of the songs from a few of the bands that I caught at that exact same festival, right? But mainly because I'd already experienced it. What I wanted was the experience of videoing it, which was a different experience. That is to say, to take it in from behind the camera, making sure that it's framed nicely. And at the time, that particular camera, it was only one generation on from the one that I'd got in my pocket because it was my now wife's camera phone that I was using. And it had a good enough mic to actually capture the sound well enough to want to listen to it back after the fact. So little things like that meant that the experience for me at that particular festival was filming it. That was the experience. Now, sat here now in front of a camera explaining this is part of the delight of doing that because that was the experience. But what you're describing is a load of people who have never seen the concert. It's a brand new concert. Nobody's seen the artist yet. And they're looking at their phone in a vertical orientation with their hand over the mic, and you're like, oh, yeah, number one, this isn't worth it. Number two, everyone else in the crowd's doing the exact same thing. So, why bother ruining your experience? If everyone else is going to film it, just go and have a look at their little YouTube video. There's definitely going to be one on there. Look around you, yeah? So, from that point of view, I think it's a waste of time for a lot of people who do it. But most people who have got the ability to document their life in video format, 4K resolution and decent sound, they've got nothing interesting going on. You know what I mean? Why would you want to see what's going on in their life? There's not a lot going on that's very interesting. Now, what I found even further on when I was a rep is even when you do have something interesting. So I remember seeing Facebook and people would post, look at what I'm having for dinner. It's my spaghetti bolognese. 25 thumbs up. Right, lots of people love it. Me, I'd be like, that's boring. I don't want to vlog about that. That's tedious. Then I'd be out in Dubai or somewhere, and I'd be at the bottom of the hotel smoking a cigarette, and you'd be like, my God, that's the brand new Lamborghini. Like, I didn't even think that was released. Click, take a picture, or you frame it with the building behind, or whatever. You get a really cool shot. Put it on Facebook. One like. Somebody telling you you're a wanker.
Showtime. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. Having a little bit of a nostalgia session in the pre-show, discussing early internet forums and how people would communicate. If you're a flat earther in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s, and you put a load of flat earth information onto Vlogspot or Bebo or MySpace or Friends You Reunited, it's a good chance it's now not there anymore. So I came up with a phrase, digital entropy, which is to say things that are online and accessible and feel like they'll last forever actually don't last very long at all. Furthermore, you can memory hole a lot of things if you don't like them. If you've got control of the internet, you can just remove things. Currently, if you've got control of the algorithms, you can censor things. You can either remove them permanently and remove the person that's making them from the platform that they're making them on, or you can limit the traffic to that particular person's stuff. So I guess an example of that would be us in terms of the censorship one, at least. So here, there's a very limited audience that our information gets put in front of as of about, I don't know, 7 years ago. They flipped a switch at YouTube and directed all traffic that searches for flat earth to anti-flat earthers. So essentially you have people like Simon Dan and I keep wanting to use these people's character names from my book. I've just got to stop myself from doing it. Not a Professor Dave Explains. People of that sort of ilk get the traffic. If you search flat earth, that's where it'll take you to as the top results. So there was a time when you could type in flat earth, and not only could you find a flat earth video, like you'd find Eric Dubay as the top result. Now, when you type in flat earth, it'll take you to someone who's anti-flat earth. But when you could actually find us, you could filter. You could filter by live stream. So that's what I used to do when I first got to this subject. So about 12 years ago, I'd type in flat earth. And you'd be like, I've already seen that video. I've already, Mark Sargent, Eric Dubay, whoever, Math Powerland. You're like, no, I want something new. So then you go to the filters, press live, and anybody who is having a live stream about flat earth, and there's a 50-50 chance someone would be, you could just go and join that live stream, again connecting us back to the nostalgia of having things like AOL live forums where you've got a chat thread. You can just go in and say ASL, meaning age, sex and location, because back in the day people didn't have the ability to share photographs easily. Like the data was too expensive, not as in money, although it was too expensive in terms of the cost of sending huge chunks of data via photographs. You'd watch a line come in at a time if you were doing it in real time waiting for a photograph. So people just didn't do it. So as an example, I can remember, like with anything back in those particular times, I used it as a means of meeting women. So if I was out on a particular forum, it wouldn't necessarily be a dating forum, but it would have 50% chance that half the people who participate in that particular forum are female. If you can filter them down by asking how old they are, there's a reasonable chance that after doing that 10 times, you'll actually come across somebody in your age category that wants to go out and meet. Unlikely because of the expansive nature of the internet, but like I say, it's worth trying your arm. And in the forums, that specific requirement or desire, that's a better word, would come with the question age, sex, location. And then by text, you'd have to describe what you were. So I'd be like 6'2", broad shoulders, thin, because people wanted to know whether you were fat or not, hazel eyes, etc., etc. So you describe what you were to somebody, and I'm smiling because I'm thinking in terms of this story to the audience? Should I tell the next bit, which is to say I met various different women without having even seen their picture? So based on their descriptions of themselves and my description to them of me, you'd be like, okay, well, you live locally to me. Let's go and have a meet and greet. Let's go and have a date. So you go out and it'd be more exciting for the fact that you kind of didn't know what they'd look like. You'd set a time, you'd set a place, and then you'd be like, is that her? Now, today, it's gone so far the other end of the extreme where you do get a photograph, but it's got so many filters on it that you go, oh, yes, definitely can't wait to meet this chick. And then somebody goes, hi, I'm the chick you're meeting. You're like, no, you're not. But I remember that also happening in terms of descriptions. One particular girl was like, yes, I'm thin. And I met her and she wasn't. She was massively overweight. And I was like, I'm gutted. Why? Well, because you didn't tell me you were massively overweight. She's like, well, I thought you wouldn't meet me. And I was like, well, no, I wouldn't have. But that's how it was back then. If it had just got a photo, I wouldn't have needed to have let her down. And, we still had a drink together, and then that was it, parted company. But the point is, now, like I say, it's the other extreme. You go on a dating site, look, see someone you like, and it isn't necessarily what they'll look like when they turn up. They might look 20 years older and far worse skin and nowhere near as nice a physique, or whatever it is that you can do with Instagram filters. I don't personally use Instagram, but I've seen enough videos from the Taylor the Fiends and Manospheres of the world to know exactly how it works currently. And it does amuse me greatly, which is why I watch those things. Anyway, so yeah, that's what we were doing in the pre-show, reminiscing about the old times of the internet. And that does directly apply to us now. There's people at the moment who want to make their mark in history, and I kind of roll my eyes. I'm like, what matters is what you're doing with your time right now. And I really do like the fact that in Flat Earth, it's become that little bit more disposable. You might think, well, that's bad, right? No, it doesn't affect me as a YouTuber. The subject's evergreen, right? What we're currently waiting on is the next wave of normies who want to brace against Flat Earth measurements. That's what will happen soon. It will come, I absolutely guarantee you. But we're in a nice little calm bit at the moment, the calm before the storm. And everything's roses, as Neil would say. And in the interim period, while everything's roses, we can contemplate the fact that we aren't actually that significant to the subject. Like, flat earthers in general are pretty insignificant when it comes to the nature of Earth and its measurements for practical applications. Those practical applications take place regardless of if we're discussing it with people who are very keen to let us know that we're wrong when we say, as opposed to just know or measure, the Earth as being a flat plane. They want to tell you all about their religion of heliocentrism and how you should really come back to it, or that you're causing problems for not being in it, or that you're going to cause the end of the world for professing you're departing from it. So that discussion is inconsequential to, well, how do we actually measure Earth? Well, we measure it as a flat plane. Okay, so that's kind of the end of the discussion then. Yeah, basically. There's no need to tell anybody about it. If they ever need to utilise a map or a scale, or if they're the ones producing the map and surveying the territory, or if they're utilising the map to fly over the territory with distance and altitude, regardless of what you're doing, building, surveying, mapping, charting, flying, sailing, they're all using flat Earth measurements anyway. So what difference does it make in the moment if we pass that on to a next man? I don't need to convert globe believers anymore. And that's a very freeing feeling. It's far more laid back here in FED, knowing that, well, the debate ended a couple of years ago when we figured out it's just measured flat. And I add the word just intentionally, because it just is what it is, and it being that way is how it's dealt with when there's some consequence attached to actually measuring, surveying, building, flying, sailing across Earth's surface. But we're not doing that. I'm sat in front of a camera. I'm not sailing. I'm not on a boat or a plane. I'm not a cartographer. I'm not making any maps. I'm not even using the maps and their flat scales. So from that perspective, it's like, well, what purpose do we have here? Well, we do have a specific purpose. We've been bought in, me and everybody else mostly around me currently, I mean, that may change in the future, have been bought into the subject of flat Earth from roads of conspiracy. So that our purpose is to talk primarily and initially in a kind of bait and switch way about flat Earth, but then immediately transitioned to talking about something else that you've just studied at a greater extent. So for me, psychopathy, that was the most recent study before coming to flat Earth. Now, don't get me wrong, in terms of hours and time spent on the subject, flat Earth massively outstrips my time that I spent looking at psychopathy because I was engaged or embroiled, or however you want to describe it, in a tribunal with a formal employer. And you kind of wanted to, for me, know what made the person I was up against tick and why they behaved the way they did, leading me to investigate psychopathy. But in this particular instance, flat Earth has lingered around because there's that feeling that, or was past tense, a feeling that you hadn't quite reached the point where you could say for sure and without a doubt that Earth is flat. You kind of knew, and you'd exclaim that you knew it balls to bones, a la Matrix descriptions from the Oracle to Neo. But you didn't. I didn't. I can speak personally from my experience and those around me who have discussed this with me. Whereas now, as of, like I say, a couple of years ago, you go, I don't have any bearing on this. I'm a YouTuber. If you moan that a mile's flat and linear when it's applied to the surface level measurements of Earth's surface everywhere without exception, you can actually do that. You're entitled to your belief. It, again, by contrast, doesn't have any effect on me unless I allow it to, because I feel it's my duty to convert you to knowing that it's going to be measured flat anyway, regardless. It's like, what's the point?
I just got into that just yesterday with somebody who's challenging that some guys are using a water level. I've got on my Facebook page. They're using a water level to level some posts and find the ground level and stuff. And of course, someone is like, "You don't know what level is, and the ground there that they're on isn't level." And get into like nautical miles. And I've been, do you know the difference between nautical and statute miles? And
Yes,
like, you know, they're both linear, 160, 169. But yeah, they're both linear. That's it. Oh, they just can't. They want me to say something so that they can point out how dumb I am, because straight linear obviously means that curving around the ball.
and so fulfills your character arc and purpose in the discussion that's discussed a couple of minutes ago by me. So if you're not here to lay out the map, if you're not here to survey the terrain, if you're not here to negotiate the terrain by land or sea or air, then what is your purpose? Well, you play out your purpose when you sit in front of someone so that they can wait for an opportunity to tell you how you're a dumb flat earther. That's your purpose. Not you become the stereotype in this example, but that's pretty much what I said prior to you suggesting it. There is a purpose, and that's for us to be brought here from conspiratorial paths so that we can be mocked and ridiculed, and the subject of how Earth is measured can be kept separate over there from the debate about whether or not Earth is spherical, headed flat Earth. Whether or not Earth is spherical is not flat Earth, but that's what it's been coerced into being. You're led here from a conspiratorial path and then told what you should debate about. What you, newly badged up flurf, need to debate about is how far we should see, given that we are definitely on a ball. So assume you're on a ball and then go out and look for an Earth curve. When you don't see it, report back about how we see too far. Too far based on how Earth curve should be in the way, but isn't. Well, given that it should be in the way, everyone around you listening to you discuss the subject will just be hearing, where should Earth curve be? That's the point. Where now, present tense, where Earth curve should be, well, it's got a horizontal linear distance mile ascribed to any measurement of any distance to anything off any map ever. Why are we having this conversation? It's measured flat in miles. You have to punch them into your stupid calculator that assumes the very opposite of what you're measuring the ground as. Flat and linear for distance in miles. So why are we having this conversation? Because you need to take that which is measured flat in miles and altitude and pump it into a calculator that automatically assumes the Earth is spherical. No, the ground's got to be measured flat, though, hasn't it? And it is. So this seems like we've been funneled into a discussion where we use the begging the question, that's to say it automatically assumes its outcome, proof of nothing, because it's using flat Earth measurements to suggest the distance to a horizon in an orthographic view that removes perspective. Earth curve calculator. Earth curve calculator meaning that it's automatically assumed Earth has curvature. And you can fiddle with the parameters of the calculation based on a derivative radial value that gets you the calculation's foundations. So where'd you get your radial value? By measuring Earth flat, of course.
I think that was, for me, that was, I think the pivotal point with the black swan is when we started discussing how it was kind of ironic that we had to presuppose the radius in order to even present the logical consistency argument. So we were still then proposing the globe in order to point out to them that the Earth curve, suggested Earth curve, is not geometric. I think that was a pretty profound tipping point, at least for me.
Yeah, and at the time it was a good argument. Now it has to be finagled into current rhetoric. If the Earth is a sphere with a flat Earth-derived radial value of 3959 miles, then every flat Earth distance to the horizon can be no more than 1.22 times the square root of the observer's perpendicular altitude measured off sea level, a flat Earth prerequisite. And the distance, a flat Earth prerequisite in linear miles, to a couple of oil rigs that we measure flat to get it, has a horizon behind the oil rigs. Like, okay, so we've got 6 flat Earth measurements before we get to the conclusion. The horizons behind oil rigs that we've got flat Earth measurements in a linear format to know how far they are. So we can punch into a calculator our altitude off sea level, measured flat in the first instance. It just seems like a bit of an unnecessary dance when you know it's just measured flat for every single value that's ever used in the argument. That's not to say it didn't serve its purpose at the time, but like everything, it's got its own entropy. I've said this about basically every single housekeeping question. What seems really important at the time often is almost inconsequential a couple of years later in this subject matter. I learnt that with the Isle of Man. At the time, it seemed like the most important thing in the whole wide world. A couple of years after its conclusion, half the people watching didn't even know it even happened. Didn't even matter. Fast forward 10 years, and we go, why did we do that again? All we needed to say was the lighthouse is 30 miles away, Earth's flat. What, you want to take that measurement and then put it through a calculator that suggests that at 30 miles there should be a physical geometric sphere edge horizon based on your flat Earth altitude from sea level? That seems silly. What a waste of time. But back then it seemed like a really important argument. Look, Anthony Riley's caught McCall Lighthouse from his belly at the beach about a foot above sea level. Oh right, so we've got sea level. And as a master reference to compare these two items, observation point and observation, to later put into a calculation that ignores perspective, we will need both items' height off sea level. Yeah, we will, yeah. And how do we know it's height off sea level? Well, we've measured the altitudes with respect to sea level to the millimetre accuracy. All right. Yeah. Why are we taking pictures of anything?
Wow.
Yeah, wow, indeed. Yeah, today's news is tomorrow's fish and chip wrapping, is the moral of this story. And it'll be the same for certain things that we seem to put focus on now. As much as every time I say this, it feels weird to say it, but I know it's true. While we are telling you now, well, it's just measured flat. Somebody will come along to supersede that. Now you go, well, it's not even an argument. How could you supersede it? It's just a fact that won't change. Yeah, I know. But based on past experience, no matter what the subject, no matter how silver that silver bullet is, no matter how shiny and valuable you feel it is while it's in your pocket, something will come along that's better. It always does.
I don't understand that. What is it going to be, more flat?
I've heard you say the same sorts of things about all of the other arguments, in quotes, that we've had over the years, Neil. Oh, what's going to come? Can something come along to debunk it more?
Well, once you get to the point where you know what the measurements are, maybe you're going to discover the exact measurements of the Earth. Okay, but you're never going to get more flat than it is. I don't get that. How are you going to supersede a measurement?
Put a pin in this question that you're asking me, and in 12 months, 18 months, 2 years' time, when we're talking about something else and ascribing a higher degree of importance to it, you'll remember you've had this conversation with me. Now, as I said in the pre-show, what's important? Is it pondering the past? Is it contemplating what might be in the future? Or is it this conversation right now? Which of those three things is the most important, Neil?
Conversation we're having.
Right. So in this moment, this is what matters. The current rhetoric, what we're doing right here, right now. If flat Earth debate is to be described in its historical value, then the land that's ripped out by the glacier, by metaphor, that flat Earth debate is, a slow-moving ice river that's at surface level, or at least at first blush, when you look at it, it's not doing a great deal. But in reality, it's violently ripping out huge chunks of the land around it. So from that perspective, it's best to just ponder the serene beauty that's in front of you right now. The land's already been ripped, past tense, out by the glacier's progression to date. So what you see right there and then is what you get. We're saying, well, will it open up a bigger delta towards the end where it meets the ocean? Will it have a deeper gorge being eroded and then melted if the temperature rises in the future? Why? Why contemplate it when you're standing there experiencing the beauty right then and there? I mean, you could just get out your camera phone and start filming it and not even look at it, just look at your little screen, as a lot of people do. But in reality, contemplating things as they may have been, or contemplating things as they may be in the future, it means often, I'm not saying always, like we do now, we're discussing the past, but by discussing the past, we are enjoying the moment in the present. But a lot of people do waste a lot of their lives away contemplating what can be. I feel really guilty of this at the moment because of the book, right? I'll, at the end of some days, because I'll have thought about it a lot, when's it coming out? How long will it be till I can start actually putting the link below my video and talk about it in earnest and going out and talking? I feel like I'm like wasting that moment because I'm concerned about what might be in the future with material that's taken a long time to produce. And I feel guilty, like sincerely. I'm like, I'm not wasting a day doing that, but wasting any time contemplating what might be. It'll come out when it comes out. My attitude's far more earnest when I've got the Flat Earth Debate Nathan Oakley persona and I'm on camera and I'm talking to you about it, Neil. I'm like, it'll come out when it comes out. Well, the truth is, when I'm actually, going to bed at night, I'm like, will I get an email from my publisher tomorrow? What will be the task that I'll have to do? Will it be the no more tasks, green light, it's coming out tomorrow? What will be the email? And you think, well, that sort of, that ponderance raises your anxiety level. And that day might come. You might not even make it to tomorrow, or I might get hit by a bus or something, you know what I mean? In which case, that time spent pondering about what might be is wasted. Now, obviously having a plan for something you want to achieve in the future and then spending the time in the moment to actually achieve that ends isn't a waste of time. But pondering it when there's nothing you can do about it, you're just in someone else's hands and you're just waiting, it is a waste of time. It's like, well, just get on with something else. It'll happen. A lot of people are waiting for the day that everyone wakes up to this subject, right? They'll ask things like, when do you think everybody will realise it's flat? Or when will everybody stop being controlled by the heliocentric one world religion? And you're like, what's going on with you right now? Where are you? You're in this moment having this discussion. In the negative, it would be our anti-flat earth counterparts that ponder, when will it end? When will it stop? When will these flirts go away and stop ruining my day after day? So, well, if you're pondering the exposure of a flat earther when the moment is offering you algorithmic favoritism, it's like, why not lap up and enjoy the algorithmic favoritism that you are afforded for being in line with the one world religion's rhetoric when compared to everybody else that's around you? You all have a similar viewpoint, you have a consensus. So the fact that you're in a subject where the consensus favours you and the algorithm favours you, why not rejoice? None of them do. They want to fight the flat earth. You're like, you're in the most privileged position, yet you want to fight? There's no war. What are you doing? Why would you want to brace against something when all that's going to do is give you bruises? I can ponder these things now and have done for the last couple of years because I feel like I don't need to concern myself with the discussion anymore. There isn't one. Earth's just measured flat. Therefore, it's, well, why do these people behave the way they do? And out of intrigue, you start psychoanalyzing them. Why do you want to behave that way? Makes no sense to me. What's in it for you? Like I did with you earlier, Surf Daddy, basically.
Yeah, I think I agree with you pretty much everything. I think I ponder the nuance of the fact that we've always measured the Earth flat. We've successfully segregated how we navigate and how we measure the surface of Earth away from the conspiracy topics, the whole zeitgeist of flat versus round, flat versus globe, and all that. And we've kept the utilitarian, useful, very useful, life-saving measurements, how we measure the Earth. And we've kept that separate forever from the topic of the actual nature of the surface of Earth. That's kind of fascinated me, pondering what will be the consequences of more and more people realizing that we've always measured the Earth flat. And it goes from absolutely nothing changing to, people start getting mad at NASA for faking stuff, and professors of astronomy from making stuff up, and stuff like that. It's just hard to tell. It's just going to be a paradigm shift, and it'll be subtle, I think, because we've always measured the Earth flat and kept the idea of that separate from the controversies we built up between the nature of creation. Interesting stuff to ponder.
Indeed it is. But we're going to continue in the meantime with the Feast of Nonsense list that you supplied about, 10 days ago. And number 41 on the list is the Bedford Level Experiment. Notwithstanding that this is not an experiment, it's another perfect example of whistling past flat Earth prerequisites in the horizontal linear distance variety and whistling past flat Earth prerequisites in the altitude variety to assert in an orthographic representation how far a distance to a geometric horizon would obscure your view if the Earth, based on radial values derived also from flat Earth measurements, was begged as a question to suggest the distance that a boat would disappear along a very flat, long canal. Now, the Bedford level is the name of the canal. Experiment is the name of the actualization of a cause and effect suppositional statement arranged after observing a natural phenomena. In the case of the Bedford level experiment, there is no natural phenomena. It's just man doing what man does, looking at things and assessing them, and in this case, running mathematics of flat Earth measurements through begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculations. It's the original we see too far, put into the form that makes it sound sciencey, pondered on by flat earthers and alleged to be proving something in the negative with regards to an automatically assumed sphericity. So it is one of the things that trained us as flat earthers for the last, for me, 10 or 12 years, to automatically assume Earth's sphericity and then ponder how far we should see and then go out and test for how the geometric horizon's absence proves how spherical we are not. Automatically whistling past several flat Earth prerequisites in terms of altitude and distance measurements. Surface level is measured flat. To have the argument, you have to remove yourself from the fact that Earth is measured flat and start pondering how you can process those flat Earth measurements and derivations in the case of the spherical radial value into an argument about whether or not Earth is a ball. The Bedford level experiment is a lot to answer for as far as I'm concerned. Now, if I was in a position where I felt that there was still a debate to have, I'd probably be quite annoyed with those who are out there suggesting A, that it's an experiment, it isn't, or B, that it in any way connects itself to flat Earth beyond the measurements that are being ignored when you check if you can see too far or not. Anybody got, this is one of the things on the list, has anybody got any comments on the Bedford level experiment, in quotes?
Was that the boat and the telescope? Is that what that's referring to in the Bedford level experiment?
Yeah, watching a boat go into the distance. But on
Okay, that's what I thought. I wanted to make sure I was correct on that.
Anybody got anything to comment on it? Like I say, my disdain towards it is because it's the originator of we see too far.
My main comment is that I'm kind of sad that it took me this long to be able to just say water is level when it's at rest and stick to it and not go beyond that. I just, Bedford level, we've got salt flats, we've got abyssal plains, flat plains, level, horizons horizontal. They're just, it's like in your face. And it's just, like I was saying earlier, it's amazing we don't just know that as a fact.
Okay, we're only 2 down for today, and I'm already in need of assistance because I don't know what this is talking about. So it says Tesla's real scientific experiments. What? I have no idea what this is babbling on about. How's this in a flat Earth list?
Free energy, baby.
Something with the ether, yeah, and like he was going to say free energy. That's what I think they're going, or that's where that's going.
Oh, it's the ether sensation.
Well, actually, wasn't his deal to just send electricity through the air? So he was basically horizontally broadcasting electricity wirelessly, I think is what his big tower thing was. Someone can correct me on that if they're a Teslite. But I think that was one of the things. Everything he dealt with required a flat Earth to work and to prove. So that's why I think Tesla's on there. But again, that's another weak proof that shouldn't be on there when you could just stick with how we measure stuff and use it practically.
I wrote a poem about this and then recently turned it into some music, so we might as well have a little musical interlude. Why the hell not?
Subscribe to Nathan Oakley 1980.
Without protestation or procrastination, and at no risk of demonetization. The ether sensation is the manifestation of the vibration when viewing libration and a perturbation and a variation with background radiation when we view illumination. There is no postulation in my verbal masturbation because perception of the visualization of light emanation in a rotation toroidation of magnetization through vacuum evacuation show the maxwellization propagation with emotion demonstration phase quantization via quantum induction validation where we view the Michelson-Morley experimentation showing consistent variation, observation, when illumination went on vacation and aberration and atmosphere stratification. And that's a miniaturization of the ether explanation. If you're lacking comprehension, it's because of your education that I mentioned the free power generation. Long live the ether. This declaration is now for your hypothesization. Subscribe to Nathan Oakley 1980.
Next, all of our senses say the Earth is flat and stationary. Got
All
something
of
on
our
that?
what?
All of our senses say that the Earth is flat and stationary. That's what it says. It's in number 43.
Those senses speak. Okay, let me hear what my sight is saying.
Don't do it, Neil. Stop touching it.
We only do observe the Earth flat, though. I would agree with that.
I mean,
Our senses do dictate it.
I've got this in the book, in the chapter on rotation, which is to say that in connection with having a natural phenomena to study, there is no natural phenomena to study when it comes to the suggestion of rotation. Now, your vestibulary system would let you know if you were moving. That's your inner ear, what you were taught in school with the 3 rings with fluid in them that lets you know if you're off kilter or moving. That's what lets you know. Well, you'd know if we were rotating, but it's a non-positive claim. When somebody else suggests that we are moving, it is their burden to prove their extraordinary claim, not your claim to disprove it. Now, you can disprove it by your own experience, and I have used that as an example in the book, but after prefacing that fact by saying it is not incumbent upon you to disprove something that is claimed to be in existence that has the burden upon the person claiming it and hasn't been substantiated. You don't have to turn around and say, well, no, we're not a roast chicken. Okay, why would you say that? Well, the guy over there says we are. Well, let him. Let him prove it. And if he doesn't, then you don't have to accept it. They're entitled to their belief, which is all Earth being a moving entity is a belief. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to go about disproving it either, because you're disproving a non-positive claim, which is just crazy. If you want to know how to debunk their positive assertion when they do suggest that they've got proof, their suggested evidence for Earth turning is that Earth is a non-inertial turning frame of reference based on the observation of a Coriolis deflection. What does that mean? Well, a deflection apparent in nature that's induced by you rotating on a flat non-inertial frame of reference as you observe items travelling straight through an inertial frame of reference, making them appear to drift because you are turning underneath them. The example being, if you're on a merry-go-round and you have 2 people standing on the ground that the merry-go-round is attached to, so they are not rotating. They're just standing on opposite ends of the merry-go-round that you are sat on, rotating. So you are the observer who is going to describe Coriolis deflection as you rotate on this merry-go-round. When the 2 other participants toss the ball to one another in a straight line, you rotating underneath that ball's straight path will see the ball appear to drift. That not actual deflection is the Coriolis effect. The force that makes it seem to curve is the pseudo force of Coriolis. Pseudo because it's not actually curving. It appears to curve as you turn underneath. This effect, the Coriolis effect, is alleged to be demonstrable on Earth's surface. Ergo, Earth is claimed to turn underneath objects travelling through an inertial reference frame. If this was true, then you would observe a plane seem to curve as you turn underneath the plane, meaning that Earth is turning underneath planes if this claim is true. And if Earth turns underneath planes, it would shorten their flight times when travelling west. A flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles would only take an hour and a half, rather than the 4 hours the flight takes, because Earth would be turning underneath the plane. Now that is the undoing of the alleged burden being satisfied by someone who asserts Earth is turning, we can prove it with Coriolis deflection. 15 degrees an hour is the essential rate they claim we must see and do not. We don't launch drones and watch the Earth turn underneath them. They can hover. If Earth turns underneath planes at a rate of 15 degrees an hour, then you could launch a hot air balloon and wait for the next continent along to come to you. This does not happen. When we point out how this doesn't happen, we are told by people who are on the side that asserts we will observe 15 degrees an hour of Coriolis deflection, that, quote, you and your reference frames have been ruined, end quote, Simon Dan. A relinquishment of the necessity to have a rotating, non-inertial, flat Earth only mathematical frame of reference, turning beneath a second inertial frame of reference with objects traversing that you can watch appear to drift. That's 2 reference frames. What's that? They're ruined? No, we just don't meet the burden incumbent on the claimant when they, globe believers, suggest we have a Coriolis deflection induced by 2 reference frames that we don't see the effect of and are subsequently relinquished with quotes like you and your reference frames have been ruined, end quote, Simon Dan. So to boil it down in summary, we don't have any proof we spin. You don't have to disprove that we do. So it's not incumbent on you to appeal to your vestibulary system in suggestion that we aren't observing something. No, in the same way I don't have to appeal to my nasal system when I say we're not a roast chicken. It's incumbent on the claimant to demonstrate we are a roast chicken rather than me saying, well, I can't smell anything. No, you can't feel anything. But you're not making a positive claim. Not rotating isn't a positive claim. Now, that was only half of the statement in this particular instance. The other half was flat, based on sensory perception. No, flat based on how we measure it and practically apply it to all things that would be death-inducing if we didn't. People would die at sea and crash into mountains, but for the fact that we have measured the topographical deviations with respect to a averaged sea level. Earth has been measured flat so that people can traverse it. That's how we know it's flat. We've measured it flat. That's how it's practically applied. You're not feeling how flat it is, and looking at how flat it is means nothing until you line up your tool with the horizon, the point where the ground appears to meet the sky, and take measurements so you can find your location. Practically applied in a dinghy, if your boat sank, then you won't die. You'll find your way home. You'll know your position. But saying, well, it feels like it's flat, kind of looks like it sounds kind of flat. Who cares? Will that pay a bill? Will that keep you safe at sea? Will that stop you crashing into the side of a mountain? No. They don't appeal to your sensory perceptions when it comes to Earth's flatness. Point out how it's measured. When it comes to Earth not turning, it's a non-positive claim. You don't have to claim anything. Done. Anybody got anything to add on that?
I approve of that message.
I also approve. Number 44. The sun and moon appear the same size. Okay. So they have the same angular size. What's angular size? Well, it's apparent size. That is to say, how it appears, and ascribe it an angle. Now, the angular resolution of a light in the sky doesn't have a great deal of practical application. How big it appears doesn't usefully translate into anything that you can put into practical application as just explained in a dinghy. When you're at sea and you want to know where the hell you are, you're going to use a tool to measure angles. You're going to use maps and almanacs to track positional data. That's how you can find out where the hell you are. Knowing that it looks kind of the same size as another light in the sky, so what? If I was to say Mars and Venus have the same exact angular, that's apparent size, how would you turn that into something useful? The answer is you wouldn't. Juxtaposing it with two different lights that might have the same angular size demonstrates how useless this is. It's there for flirfs to argue as a red herring, an inconsequential nonsense waffle that doesn't offer any proof of a belief in a flat Earth. Now, here we are in 2026, where your belief in a flat Earth is utterly inconsequential to how Earth will be measured. If we're utilising the sun or moon in navigational purposes, we'll measure the surface level to acquire an angle from it. It's called an elevation angle. That'll stop you dying. What's that? It kind of looks the same. So who cares? Anybody got anything else on that one?
No, Nathan, just so I was going to say, just, we can obtain elevation angles to these two celestials, get their ground position, and then calculate a distance between their ground position and our ground position at sea level, using the horizontal baseline known as mean sea level.
Okay, next. The globe model was made 500 years ago by occult members. Why people are describing them as occult members, it's the Roman Catholic Church specifically. They're the ones who had all the finances. Those are the ones who owned all the telescopes. They even own all the telescopes now, as far as I'm aware. Most of the Roman Catholic Church is where the money has come from to develop systems like heliocentrism. And we can track their origins based on the historical data that has been given to us, based on scaling in more recent times from Huygens, right the way back through Keplerian orbital elliptical motion. We can track these origins back through Ptolemy. All of the documented history of heliocentrism is readily available. It also has all of the flat Earth prerequisites tied into the historic account. So regardless of the out-of-the-box extrapolations used by people like Kepler, you still need to measure Earth flat to get to that particular point where you can extrapolate out heliocentric elliptical orbital motion. You're going to need flat Earth radial values measured from surface level to acquire to create heliocentrism in the first instance. This suggestion that there's a need to propagate the idea of heliocentrism because it is a mathematical idea created by men as being occult just makes the person who's pointing it out sound like a conspiratard. If you want to go through the history of heliocentrism, number one, just do a good job of looking up who came up with what and when they came up with it, and explain it for what it is. If you want to engage in historic accounts, which may or may not even be true, but based on their own rhetoric and historic account, they being heliocentrists, you can show where they required flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle measurements to derive radial values to put into effect heliocentric motion. Earth's measured flat by everyone. There's no exception to that. Doesn't matter if you go back 500 years to document the history of the occultists. What's an occultist? What does occult mean? Hidden, that's what it means. If you're describing a light being occulted, it means one alleging to be in front of the other. That's what occultation means. So to hide information is to be an occultist. Well, they're not hiding information. Heliocentrists are exposing the public to information. They're creating out-of-the-box thinking when it comes to tracking the stars' movements and better predicting where they'll be at given times. That's what heliocentrism offers. It's a light information study. That's what it is. It's studying the lights in the sky. Now, in order to extrapolate out better understandings of things like retrograde motion, you need out-of-the-box thinking that violates the base principle of the surface that you're standing on to acquire measurements and put them into effect inside a giant glorified protractor that you can paint a pretty picture of a map on. With that system, you can extrapolate out a planar surface that bifurcates the pretty painting of a ball and set it in motion around the sun. That's what heliocentric means. Helios, at the centre. Heliocentric, helios at the centre, sun at the centre. That's what it means. That's all it's done. Mathematically put the sun at the centre. Well, that's not occult. What are they hiding? They're telling you this is the mathematics of how we've extrapolated out retrograde motion. That's it. It's not occulting anything. Now, the reality is that out-of-the-box thinking to better explain a certain motion of certain lights in the sky with a pattern that can be described mathematically required Earth be measured flat. I don't worry about describing it in a very conspiratorial way as being occult. Just go straight to the brass tacks of what the measurements of Earth's surface were. Well, they were flat. So heliocentrism is built on a foundation of flat Earth measurements. Beyond that, who cares?
Well, how can that be? If they're telling us they're describing the movement of the stars, but if I was on one of those stars, I'd be looking back at a spherical Earth.
No, you wouldn't in the mathematics because you can't. It doesn't work from the position relativistically from the star that you've just described it, because the motion comes from within a ball on the equatorial plane with an extended celestial plane. So the vision that you've got is described from within the ball. The plane of the motion bifurcates the same ball that is a glorified protractor. So you've got a planar surface with the sun at the centre, and that planar surface is running directly through the middle of the ball. What do I mean? If you look at the picture of any orbital motion, often they do this in a way that you can't notice it because it's so small. But if you zoom in at where the ball is, the claim to be mathematical representation of a sphere Earth, not in a vacuum, mathematically described as going around the sun in an orbital motion, you will bifurcate the sphere Earth and have the line of the orbital motion go through the middle of the ball Earth, because that is where it is described from. Now, you cannot then juxtapose the mathematical description onto a position that you're describing from within that ball to look back at the centre of a ball to make it convertible mathematically. You can only be in the middle of the ball, bifurcating it on a plane that has been described with an elliptical orbital motion around the sun. You are always inside the heliocentric ball if you're describing its heliocentric motion. Any more on that one? The globe was created 500 years ago from Masonic members of the occult. Any more?
The Roman Catholics would prefer that people believe that than really learn that Copernicus and all those other names that they were taught in school.
Yes, excellent point.
Wrong.
Yes. When it comes to the globe Earth versus anti-globe, that's flat Earth, discussion over here, the originators, that's the Roman Catholic Church, would much prefer you blamed it on Freemasons than actually ascribe the sincere origins to the Roman Catholic Church. But that is where they reside. They're the people who controlled all of the lights in the sky when it came to research 500 years ago.
Well, and I also to add that in Christian circles, one of their arguments typically is, look at how many Christians are scientists and astronomers. And they point to people like Copernicus and even Newton, which if you read about Newton, good grief, he was a cult. He was like a grand wizard or something. But yeah, all the people that when people point to everything about quote unquote science and evolution and astronomy and astrophysics and all that stuff, there's a big long laundry list of quote unquote Christians who were scientists. So appeal to authority. Why would they lie? They're good Christians, and they're all heliocentrists. So much better to be able to point out that if you're a dumb flat earther, that comes from Babylonian occult secret knowledge and stuff like that. And that's where that gets flipped around.
They weren't scientists. They're pseudoscientists.
Yes, Neil, we know that. But, you know, people who want to gatekeep this and make their point that Christians think the earth is a globe, in spite of the Bible saying not, they hijack science and Christianity to prove their point.
So do you think if Christians had a proper handle on the scientific method, that would change anything?
No, I think we're beyond. I think they just need to learn how we measure the earth and figure it out from there. And we don't need to point out all this stuff. This feast of nonsense stuff is the stuff that we're saying that we should avoid.
Hold on. They will get to the measurements once they have a comprehension of what science is and what science is not. So then they could throw everything out, and then they could focus on measurement. I think they have to be aware that what they think science is not science.
Yeah, and it's not a measurement. Get down to the measurements. This is where we're at now, isn't it? Yeah, and they can't handle it. They can't deal with the actual measurements. And we're just going through these questions. This is where we are. This is where we was. All this feast of nonsense, stupid questions about the lights in the sky, reference points, Coriolis. What a load of garbage. Sea level, mean sea level, the 0 degree baseline for all elevation profiles on Earth. Simple as that.
Yeah, and you got to remember, even discussing science with the Christian creation scientists, ironically called, they're appealing to the pseudoscience when they're arguing against evolution. Yet at the same time, they old Earth and young Earth creation people both believe that the heliocentric system is scientifically sound. And you can't even point out that the first law of thermodynamics is violated by the whole premise of the Big Bang. And, they just appeal to, God of the gaps and misinterpretation. So I think that appealing to trying to get them to understand the scientific method versus everything that their entire lives are built on, which is pseudoscience, astrophysicists, that's like an oxymoron, right? So, yeah, you're not going to get to people by appealing or by telling them that their entire livelihood is pseudoscience and fake.
Well, it all requires a globe. All that nonsense requires a globe, and there's no measurements of a globe. The only measurements of a globe is elevation angles from sea level. to the Celestials. Simple as that. No globe.
That's correct.
Right, someone shared this with me in Master B, and it's a comment on a video by a YouTuber called Dad, the Engineer. And the commenter is Flat Earth Guy Fallout 76. I'm not going to read his entire message, but I'm going to give you a general gist of it. Now, hopefully someone will dig out and post from Master B a link to this video, so someone who's watching can actually toddle along to this video and just give the pinned comment, that is to say the videographer, Dad the Engineer, pinned this Flat Earth commenter to the top of his post, at the top of his video thread, comment thread on his video, you know what I mean. Flat Earth Guy Fallout 76, 5 days ago. Dad, I'd like to ruin your worldview, but I think I'll wait till the end of the video first. Remember, quote, no matter how certain you are, you really can't argue with empirical findings, end quote. Your words. I think the video was ace. You give a ton of good information, and it really shows you've done your homework. That's why I think you'll understand my dismantling of your worldview. You know how to fact check things. I want you to fact check this because you, Dad, deserve to know the truth. Right, I'm going to read this particular paragraph. There's 4 paragraphs. I'm just going to read this one. Earth is measured flat by everyone in industry. Tunneling, aviation, celestial navigation, world record long-distance photography, bridge building, interstate systems, elevation above sea level. All require a flat, horizontal plane of reference. You think miles can curve around a spherical planet? ? No! ! Oxford defines miles as, quote, a unit of linear measurement equal to 1,760 yards, approximately 1.609 kilometers, end quote. Linear, without a curve or bend. Miles and kilometers do not curve by definition. Most people do not know the meaning of the words they use. They just assume, based on context, of the way others use the words. I'll bet you till just now never really knew what a mile was. This is because miles are the measured distance as the crow flies from city to city. Elevation cannot be taken into account, or that would throw off the distance measurements for accuracy. Physical, testable, repeatable. Physics and measurements are what you have to prove Earth is not what they taught you in schools. I've given you tons of information to look into. If you do, you will find out that I am quite correct. Have a great day, sir. Once again, that was by Flat Earth Guy Fallout 76 on a video by Dad, the Engineer, that's the videographer, and the video is called Your Phone is Not Listening to You, the Truth is Much Worse. It came out 9 days ago. Fallout Guy 76 or whatever, Flat Earth Guy Fallout 76 left his comment 5 days ago. It is the pinned comment on Dad the Engineer's Your Phone is Not Listening to You, the Truth is Much Worse video. So, hopefully somebody's posted a link from Master B to that video, and you can let Dad the Engineer know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me when he highlighted this comment being pinned by you. Just like to let you know, welcome to Flat Earth. It's measured flat in miles, or something to that effect. Don't be too passive-aggressive. Try not to get your comment instantly removed by the YouTube algorithmic bots or the videographer himself. That's Dad the Engineer. Be polite. Respond to the comment. Give it a thumbs up. It's nice to see that somebody's taking the time to actually read the message and then pin it in his comments when somebody's offered, out of the goodness of their heart, a paradigm-shifting piece of information, as this particular Flat Earth Guy Fallout 76 has done. Kudos to you, sir, whoever you are. Excellent message.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was
Tell you what,
perfect. Give me 1 second to post it, so don't end the show.
Okay.
I posted it in live show comments, but you ought to read. You got to go read his reply to the pinned message before you decide what you're going to write. Still, don't be mean to him, but he's not taking it well. That's why he pinned it.
It's a shame that, because I was hoping that he'd get that and maybe do a video response, and in realization after he's fact checking that, Flat Earth guy who put the message is absolutely correct, but obviously he's gone in straight into Cogdis.
Of course.
Yeah, his first statement is, as an engineer, I've taken more college level science than the average college graduate. That said, I had enough science by the 5th grade to know the flat earthers were extremely uneducated.
Stop. So what he's done is offered.
Science.
So he's offered a resume statement that lends his credibility in the subject arena. I'm very educated. That was the first sentiment that he offered. I am very educated. I've done more science than you've had hot dinners. And based on my high degree of education, I know that flat earthers are stupid. Dad, the engineer. No. Now I've got to reiterate the facts in the matter. If that's Dad, the engineer's response to that comment, you weren't being challenged on your education status, Dad, the engineer. You were being told how flat and linear Earth is measured in miles. That's what you were being told. Notice I used the word explicitly. Told. He wasn't asking you about whether or not it was the case. He was telling you what a mile is and asking you to check for yourself his facts. He even phrased it that way. Fact check. He offered you facts about how Earth was measured in miles, and you insulted him and built yourself up with a resume statement you weren't asked for. That tells me that you need to justify your own education status to others. That tells me that you are insecure about your own intellect level, or you wouldn't need to lord it over somebody as a response. Actually, in reality, a non sequitur followed by a stereotype fallacy. Do you know how stupid I am? What difference does it make? We're talking about miles, not the intellect level of you, I, or the commenter who's telling you how flat miles are when applied to Earth's surface measurements. Did he ask you for your education status? No, he asked you to fact check, and it seems like you ignored him, Dad the engineer. What a disgrace. I would expect an educated man to understand the words he was reading. Did you read, "Can you let me know how educated you were, you dumbass"? It seems like you read words that weren't there. He didn't ask you to confirm your status. He didn't request a resume statement. He told you how flat Earth's measured in miles.
This is the thing, Nathan. It's gone straight to me. Even if he did have a little fact checking about this and he's realised that there is a point, he can't handle that. And like you say, he's going straight into nonsense science in his education because he can't handle it. He cannot
Education?
handle it.
He demonstrated how uneducated he was. That was concise.
Exactly.
Yeah, he used a fallacy, non sequitur, and a stereotype. You flat earthers. How dare you? How to best and most quickly demonstrate to the reading audience, in this case us, how stupid you are. Yeah, you want to appeal to how educated you are, you'll have me taking a strip off you. That doesn't address how linear miles are. It doesn't demonstrate that you've actually done as requested and fact-checked. That's to say, verified the facts that you were offered. When somebody was quite polite to you, "Have a good day, sir, I enjoyed your video." This man's the guy putting food on your table. He's the guy that's giving you the ad revenue. And you've chosen to give him a resume statement and insult him, demonstrating how incredibly stupid this man actually is and how he fears his intellectual inferiority. People who know how smart they are don't need to go around telling people how educated they are. They're secure in their own education status. Dad the engineer clearly is not, and needs to project out his resume statement about his intellect level. Well, if you were confident in how smart you were, you'd, number one, not be reading things that aren't there in comments. Nobody asked you how smart you were or how educated you were. You were told about miles. And your response was to stereotype the person being polite to you. What a scumbag. It reminds me of Wayne from the mapping company or the map reading company. Somebody comes along and starts complimenting them in terms of their excellent use of flat earth prerequisites, and they copyright strike them, put their ability to feed their kids in jeopardy, and then engage themselves in discussions about how North is the top of something, like a complete retard. In this case, the guy's non-sequitured away from the actual point being made, gave him a resume statement, and then insulted him. What a scumbag. I haven't even watched the guy and already know he's a wanker.
Nathan, I put the link in the YouTube chat, so if anybody wants it, it's there.
But unlike my disdain, which I'm perfectly entitled to on my own video, if you are to pop along to Dad, the engineer, then please let him know, first and foremost, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Please don't pass on my disdain in his comment section. There's a good chance he'll just remove it immediately. But do let him know he's getting a bit of love from us. That is to say, we've mentioned his channel and we are promoting it. I have shared his link. I have increased his reach. I have expanded his audience base. What I don't expect in return is to be stereotyped and non-sequitured away from the fact that I'm now reiterating from a point he pinned. Earth's measured flat in miles. If you've done a load of science of engineering, sounds like Dad the engineer doesn't know what science is. It's the elucidation of the phenomena you study in nature by way of a hypothesis actualization. That's experiment. That's science. That's the study of the physical and natural world, otherwise known as physics. That's not engineering. It's not science, you dumbass. You want to give me a resume statement that makes science anything other than the study of the physical and natural world based on natural phenomena with the scientific method? No? Oh, well, I'll just call him dumb. This man who feels the need to appeal to his education when being told how flat miles are. Told,
Why is he
not
bringing
asked.
science into geography?
Because he wants to sniff his own farts. The same exact people who I had a song played out on this very live show appealed to the same fallacy in the song. If you lack in comprehension, it's because of your education. Sound familiar? Yeah, bullshitters who say we'll get free energy use the same shitty trick Dad the engineer used. All right, so we must trust you because you're oh so educated. You don't know what science is, Dad the engineer. But you've got the gall to stereotype somebody who's taken their time to not only line your pockets by watching your videos, he's been polite and kind to you, offered you information, and you've insulted him. Well, wait until you get a load of me, you dumbass. You don't know what science is. You've utilised fallacies. 2, non sequitur in rebuttal. Who gives a shit how smart you think you are? And stereotyping. Oh, all flat earthers, really? Am I going to stereotype all engineers as fart-sniffing idiots who don't know what science is because you don't know what science is, Dad the engineer? I'm done.
I can't believe it. He's pinned it. It's obviously caught his attention in the beginning. It's triggered him or done something. He's pinned it, and now he, instead of fact checking like we've just said, he's had to go straight to insulting. You know what I mean?
I'm
Because
smart.
deep
You're
down
stupid.
inside, he knows what the measurements are. Deep down inside, this is what measurements do to people.
Yep. It's psychological dilemma. This is what's happening. It's a psychological thing with them. They can't deal with it. This is how embedded it is within these people who believe they live on a spinning globe. When you tell them how it's measured flat.
I got a guy in chat going crazy, just constantly. Listen, it's measured flat. That's all there is to it. Just get over it.
Yeah, you don't have to like it. But with that, I will say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow.
Surface distance. You don't have to like it. You don't have to like it. Distances as lengths of lines between points are always linear. Yes.
Yeah, so we measure Earth flat then.
So he says you can't curve a fishing line? Question mark.
But do we
Does it-
measure?
Yeah.
Sorry, how many fishing lines long is Great Britain? Oh, we don't measure in fishing line. We measure in linear horizontal miles. Maybe we could talk about getting a suit fitted.
Well, he does the same thing with the rapid and tape measure on a basketball. They're not understanding that at inception, the inch to a freaking mile is all linear.
Yeah, you can't get away from it. If you're going to describe vertical orientated deviations from a master reference, that's sea level, then ultimately you can only describe that as a horizontal plane of reference with the deviations coming from it in the vertical. That's how we've surveyed, to the millimetre. That's how accurate the world has been measured in linear miles for the topographical deviations that are ascribed to it and surveyed from it. Flat. Axiomatically required to be so in distance terminology. No getting away from it. What if I use this tape measure and measure my belly when I get a pair of trousers made? Sorry, do you think that the Ordnance Survey are concerned about how tight your trousers are? They're not. Well, what about if I go and get a fishing rod? Can I measure the length that's bent out towards it? Yeah, you can. But that's not how we measure the Earth's surface when we describe to the millimetre accuracy the topographical deviations in the vertical with respect to the horizontal linear mile measurements of Earth's surface flat. That's how it's measured.
This is what they do, go to the tape measure. I had one the other day talking about something. I'm talking about the Earth measurements and how it's measured flat. And he goes on to, well, you've not described to me how the curvature of hills are measured. I said, well, we're not talking about the curvature of hills, but that will require a horizontal baseline. Also, every measurement you make in reference to Earth will require a horizontal baseline. Rise over run, sea level for all elevation profiles. You can't get away from it. Simple as that. And the Greeks are...
So he says, they don't realize that they say, yes, the length of any path is linear. We call it a line. A line has length, linear length. Thank you. So what are you missing? So that comment, what'd you say, was 9 days ago or 5 days ago? That's pretty
The
good.
video's 9 days old. The comment's 5 days old.
People are paying attention, Nathan.
Yeah, they sure are. That's why I read it out. As soon as I read it, I'm like, this is somebody who's watching the show, paying close attention, and knows damn well how strong and powerful this position is to put to somebody who they like. In this case, the guy clearly likes the videographer. He's full of compliments. And what does the videographer do? Spit in his face. What a disgrace.
Yeah.
It's all over.
That was the way. That was the way to do it. How he did it. Good approach, like you say, nice. No, complimentary. I mean, and then you get that. That's just low.
Yeah, it's like how a mapping guy treated you. One deck.
Yeah, but I will be popping along to Engineer Dad's channel and having a little chat with him as well, in a nicest possible way.
Good luck. Good luck. 'Cause I'm looking down the threads right now. There's like 28 comments on the one he pinned at the top, and it doesn't get any better. And
Yeah, he's losing his mind.
I know. Well, and the flat Earth guy is really extensively, like more than necessary, explaining, gas law and thermodynamics and closed systems and stuff like that. And
Why is he going into that? Stick to the measurements.
Oh, bloody hell. Bloody hell. He had him, didn't he?
no,
You had him at the measurements. You had him at hello.
yes, but It's because the Flat Earth Dad keeps challenging him to his burden of proof, 5 proofs, which was in his first reply. Here's what a 5th grader knows: observe a lunar eclipse, ships, oil platforms, any other tall object disappears bottom first over the horizon. 3, different views of star constellations from different latitudes. 4, oceanic
Latitude, you say?
circumnavigation.
Latitude?
Yeah.
I heard latitude.
Yep. And circular oceanic navigation, which are circumnavigation. So that's going around the ball.
Yeah. You'll require
That's
a compass with that as well.
Top 4 5th grader proofs. So, and by the way, Nathan, he said
Every
he
one of them had
appeals
flat
to
Earth
his
measurements. Every one of
college
those,
level.
every one, including eclipses, was based fundamentally on having flat Earth prerequisite measurements. No exceptions. Everyone required a flat Earth that he's in that list. That was his rebuttal. They all needed flat Earth measurements.
Yeah,
Yep.
and he used those to avoid the original statement, which was best just linear miles. So the linear miles.
Did he have climb a tree? Did he climb a tree on there? No.
But
That
man,
one. That's a good one.
yeah, it's he appealed to his credentials, but he appealed to his stereotype fallacy from being educated in 5th grade. So it's his 5th grader, 12-year-old man-child that informs him that flat earthers are dum-dums.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a good
Gaslaw, what he should have did was, in Gaslaw, he should have asked him how he measured that.
So yeah, the stereotype that I'm starting to create about people being fart sniffing overgrown 12-year-olds, this guy typifies it and even describes it. He's reverting back to his 12-year-old fart sniffing boy self, who remembers how fantastic heliocentrism was and how exciting rocket launches were. That's what people regress to when this is put to them. They become that 12-year-old boy, don't they? I'm smarter than you. You're just some Dumbo. You're part of a group that's full of Dumbos. I got this education certificate. Really? Okay. Seems like you're kind of insecure about your education, Sutter, so you wouldn't be appealing to it.
Yeah, like you said, he doesn't even know what science is.
But Nathan, you're right. It's like, I don't know what it was. I was watching something on social media last week and I can't remember. It was someone being interviewed and the guy was asking the woman the question, so do you think moon travel will be possible in so many years? And we can at a price, we can go to the moon and look back at Earthrise. And she said, yeah, sure. It's all in process. And you should have seen the guy's face. This is a grown man. He was like, he's like, really? This has made my day. Yeah, he was like, because she said, yeah, this probably will be possible. He's like, I can't wait. I can go to the moon. I can pay and watch Earthrise. It was like he's like a little kid getting so excited about this possibility. Unbelievable.
This is what they sell to the public and they eat it up. One day you'll be able to see Earthrise. Oh boy.
Here we go. I'll be honest with you. This is the most confident display of confused thinking I've encountered in a while. And I've met a lot of people. You are so woefully ignorant of actual science and how we have experimentally gotten to our current level of understanding that you're essentially unarmed. Let's start with Newton. And I'm not going to go on.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, you can just the brainwashing's right there, isn't it? So
yeah, and the thing
is education. Education. That's what education is, isn't it? He's just been brainwashed to rinse and repeat stuff. You know, you
right,
just remember what we're telling you to remember. So
it's like what Nathan says. They've taken geography and put it into science. That's what he's doing right now. He's trying to take a measurement with his geography and trying to you know what I'm saying, shoehorn it into science. Look, science proves the globe. That's basically what he's saying.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not talking about science. We're talking about geography, Earth measurements from sea level. Let's talk about Eratosthenes, if you want, and Alberuni. We'll go through that in fine detail.
Oh, they measured Earth flat for sure.
Yeah, he mentioned that in that. I've been reading his comment. That was one of his examples of why you should know that it's a ball is because of Eratosthenes.
Oh, contraire. You better revisit that.
Oh, yeah, better go and have another look at that.
He had some really weak
there.
blows in there, trying to use some of his weaponry or what he would think he would have, which would be all your flat Earth, obviously proofs. They just don't realize.
He's skipping past all the sine qua nons.
Unfortunately, though, I do think that they are telling, from my experience, like with geography students, though, because I know someone who's going to school, and when they are using angle measurements, I've heard them just listening in conversation. It's my girlfriend's daughter, that they're calculating that into sphericity, but they're indeed using flat Earth measures. She won't say that; she'll say it's a sphere. But they're calculating that. But I've heard her say that multiple times as far as conversations. I try not to interject because it'll cause, emotional reactions.
Yeah. Take what you got flat and turn it into a sphere. Sorry, one that good.
Yeah, I found that. So I've noticed that myself. They've got no problem, or they don't see the issue with. Well, yeah, it's calculated, but we know that it's been calculated into a sphere. And they think that's totally acceptable. Yeah. When you're pointing out, well, that's not the measurement. The actual measurement is flat. Then you calculate it into a sphere. Then you never measure a sphere.
Then we calculated it into a roast chicken.
If the calculations contradict the measurements, you toss the calculations out.
Yeah. Why calculate something when you can measure it?
You can't measure
because if you measure it, you're measuring it flat.
Exactly.
Sorry,
there is no measuring it spherical because it isn't spherical and it can't be measured spherical. Therefore, it isn't measured spherical. It is measured flat. And to have the belief that it's spherical, you have to calculate into existence sphericity with flat Earth measurements.
Exactly. That's what I was getting at.
Exactly. Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth as well.
He seems to do that a lot, I noticed. What was that, Mike? I didn't hear you. We both rumpushed you. Repeat that.
Oh, I was just saying when they were having that conversation, they were out wherever and they were utilizing angle measurements when they were doing that in her description.
Of course. That's the only way to measure.
Yeah, but they don't realize it. We talk about Eratosthenes now. We've discussed it before. We missed it. I've said it hundreds of times. Neil said it. I used to get like, give me the globe proof of Eratosthenes measuring and then calculating into a sphere. How am I going to deal with this? Not realizing that Eratosthenes was just measuring angles using the surface of Earth and elevation angles to the sun and distances from 2 points across the linear surface of Earth. That's all he did. But we missed it. And that's what your family or friends that you're discussing are also missing. They're saying it and not realizing the contradiction of what they're talking about.
If you point it out,
like we've just...
Go ahead, one day.
Sorry, mate, go on. No, I'm just saying, but if you point it out, we've just witnessed what happens. We've witnessed it with the mapping guy, Wayne, and now this engineering dad. Straight away, bang, you're getting, it's triggered. Cog this. Right. Psychological dilemma.
Which leads me to this. Destroyed. There's got to be a way to put this out there where it doesn't cause that. There has to be something. I mean, I think we're missing something in our communication, because when we say it's measured flat, they go right to, but it's calculated spherically. Like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but something's missing.
Yeah, what's missing is the ability
Well,
for
these
us
two-
to let it go, right? Tolerate other people's belief and go, whatever. If you want to believe that the flat Earth measurements we measure the surface with can afford you the calculated sphericity that you're alleging, then have it. You know, it isn't true. It's not how it's measured. It is only in existence in the maths.
I mean, I was just going to say, Neil, exactly. I was just going to say, Nathan will probably point out that, you know, it's just the way it's measured. We don't have to try and convert people. How many times we had this conversation between us all? And it's just, it's like, no, but we did, and we come back to it a lot, don't we? Or if you do want to mention the flat Earth guy who put that message was top drawer. I mean, it was pleasant, it was polite, complimentary. So that's all you can do, really. You know, and like you say,
his message sounds like it's being communicated to the guy out of love. That's to say, I read that as, I really like your videos, right? And I want you to know the truth. I respect what you do. I respect that you've got a mind that seeks empiricism, and I want to offer you this information for your benefit. So to get, I've studied science, and the globe's proven with science, you dumbass flat earther, as the response, just sort of does kind of make you lose a little bit of hope for humanity. But by the same token, we've seen this so many times that you go, yeah, that is the reaction. But their belief in a ball, derived from flat earth measurements, doesn't change the flat earth measurements that they're using. So it does kind of become a bit inconsequential. Who cares? They want to believe they're on a ball. Let them.
See, but I think I watched a bit of his video earlier. I think he's on about your phone spying on you. So is it, you know, is a bit down the conspiracy theory route.
So she got a shock. So he, like all of us, is suddenly looking into the conspiracy of flat Earth because he's into talking about phones spying on him and stuff.
He was talking about the digital tracking with like your mapping and stuff. And then those app companies being associated with mining data, kind of where your location is, what you're looking at. This is something along that lines. I listened to some of it last night, but definitely on the mapping and tracking with apps kind of thing, and not. I don't think it was an implication of like voice, like it's listening, but location by mapping and stuff like that. Flat Earth horizontal mapping, by the way.
Right, so talking about whether or not phones are tracking us distracts from the flat Earth prerequisites in the applications themselves. So he is the perfect candidate to come to this subject, isn't he? It is typifying what I describe. How do you make flat Earth, the use of measurements of Earth's surface, into a conspiracy? Well, you have conspiracy-minded fucktards brought to the subject. He is one said conspiracy fucktard. That's all he is. So if he gets here and goes, the anti-flat Earth route, I'm going to fight for the side that says, Earth's a sphere and we've all known it forever because science and I'm smart. Okay? So you'll be on that side of the discussion that discusses whether or not Earth's a sphere with flat Earth measurements being ignored. Doesn't matter to the discussion if you're sat on the anti-flat Earth side or the anti-globe side. You're still going to be talking specifically about how phones aren't listened to after you talk about the subject. If he'd made his first flat Earth video last month, he'd now be making his second video about phones and whether or not we're being listened to. Now, by pure chance, part of my book has exactly this story. One of the people who was prevalent 10 years ago in flat Earth versus globe Earth rhetoric, that's globe Earth and whether or not it is or isn't a globe, was telling us about how Microsoft were listening to your microphone in Windows before they admitted to doing so in Windows 10 because he was working for Windows. He was working in a capacity that would know how the operating code utilised your microphone without you knowing about it. So literally the exact same conspiratorial rhetoric being described in an expanded form, presumably by way of algorithmic understanding of what you're going to shop for or whatever the current version is that this guy's talking about. Now, the fact that he's going to take an anti-flat earth stance just is the same exact principle. Some conspirator that's sniffing their own farts, talking about some ancillary conspiratard subject, comes to flat earth. He's been led to the subject by whatever means, be it because he's talking about something conspiratorial and he's attracted the attention of the Fallout 76 guy, who is also conspiratorial. By whatever means, this shite has attracted this exact flat earth versus globe earth shite. It's almost preordained to happen. And the outcome for the individual, that's to say, will you take the side of flat earth or take the side of globe earth? Like, there is no sides. Everyone's measuring earth flat. Now, the fact that this guy's opener was, well, we're all measuring earth flat with miles, has resulted in, I'm a scientist, look how smart I am, so I know it's not. And you're just a dum-dum. Like, well, shocking. Yeah? That's the general reaction of a 12-year-old boy who's worried that he's not going to be perceived to be smart enough. That's what I'm hearing. It's all really quite sad when you break it down.
Well, Nathan, think about it. His opener just devastated everything that the guy could even come up with, so he had to come up with his education. What that guy said was outright devastating. Leveled the whole playing field, if there is one. That's what measurements do, Nathan.
I can't remember. What he should have done was respond to a couple of the guy's points. I mean, I can't remember him off the top of my head, but obviously he spoke about navigation, bridge building, long distance photography, and one of the things he brought up, he should have, come back with something on that, at least one of the points, but not to even address anything. How sad.
You did address everything by saying he's a scientist and he knows better. And you're just a dumb flat earther. See, that's the reaction you're going to get when you get confronted with measurements right at the start. Think about it. That guy caught him. I can imagine what happened to that guy. Flustered him. He threw him off his whatever he was on. Because it's all true. Yeah. So he's probably reading everything and like, oh, shoot.
Yeah. He had a flat earth uppercut. That's what he had.
Yeah, well, he doth protest too much. I'm still reading through the comments. As late as 22 hours ago is the last comment I'm reading from the engineer. He refuses, and it's not the engineer's fault because the flat guy isn't insisting that he stick to miles as a linear distance measurement. They're going off on...
Does he address the measurements at all?
In the very first comment, he says that miles are linear, and then they go by the wayside as soon as the engineer lists off his 4 fifth grade proofs, which he is still, with lots of words...
So he didn't address the miles. He didn't address the measurements.
The engineer did not, no. And the flat earth guy is not trying to get back to it to point out that, for example, because we're now back to Eratosthenes, that Eratosthenes measured elevation angles. Let me see the next.
Yeah, so you got to stick to the measurements.
Place there. Perfect.
Yep, stay with the measurements. You can't go wrong.
Right. Well, the thing is that he's the engineer guy keeps falling back on his proofs, and that saying that the flat Earth guy's not proving it, or the flat Earth guy keeps asking for demonstrations. If all 7 of those can be demonstrated with why, then why do you keep refusing to demonstrate them? So the engineer's not demonstrating. He's just mouthing off about ships over the horizon in Eratosthenes and Bedford level.
Uh-oh.
And Flat Earth guy
Ships
keeps
over
going,
the horizon?
yeah, Flat Earth guy keeps going, demonstration. Just show a demonstration of the physics for your claims.
Well, if he's offered them in the form of
making a mistake.
Eratosthenes, then he's offered them with the flat Earth prerequisites that were attached to those standards. So the next thing is to start pointing out how you require a flat planar surface for Eratosthenes' claims, or if they were appealing to something else, if they're appealing to orbital motion, like, well, this is where you require flat Earth prerequisites for orbital motion. No, don't put the snail on me. Ugh. No, thank you.
Ick.
It seems like the guy is actually taking the Flat Earth guy off his game.
Yes, and he's allowing, and I think the Flat Earth guy's right there, but he's not comfortable enough without the ninja tools that he's learned all these years. Plus, the engineer guy just absolutely loaded. You know, you're dumb, you have no education, I'm smart, all the scientists of the world. Yeah.
But listen, I'm just saying, I've no sorry to interrupt, but I don't know if we don't know the engineering dad, right? We just presume he's got his engineering channel and he goes through some conspiracies and he supposedly does a lot of research and fact checking. That's what was said by the Flat Earth guy. Yeah, but from what you're reading, he's gone straight into anti-flat earther mode. But I've told you these stories before. I've noticed it with some of my friends who are not even into this arena. You know, that's where the sea level point came from one of my friends who he was, just getting into me with levels not level. And it's like, it's inside you or them, maybe what used to be us, I don't know, that this is a natural defensive. We've been through this, haven't we, Nathan? I can't remember. It's something, it's a chemical reaction in your brain and it kicks in.
Yeah, they seem to. They appeal to that. It's an appeal to that pubescent 12-year-old when you're all mentally messed up anyway, and that seems to be the regression that they take. You know, we've seen it so many times. They all seem to regress to little 12-year-old boys, don't they?
Yeah, because they go crazy when there's a rocket launch.
Yeah. But from his comments now, and he's still going on with this conversation. If he thought it was ridiculous and Earth's been scientifically proved to be a globe, right? Why is he still going on about this conversation with the Flat Earth guy now, days later?
Same reason he gave his resume statement about his credentials, because he's insecure about them.
That's spot on. This guy really just writes too much. Reminds me of me. Only not a triggered glober. But yeah, he's just going on and on.
You know what the Flat Earth guy should do? The Flat Earth guy should just say, have your balls. I tried.
Well, it's a bit worse than that. If you extend that logic, you get to where I'm currently saying it would have been inconsequential to have contacted him in the first place. Like, why are you going into the theatre, sitting down next to somebody and going, you do realise Peter Pan can't actually fly, right? It's just high wire. That's what he's doing.
Nathan, we cannot allow people to go through life in a delusion. Stop comparing a movie.
You've got an obligation.
You go there and you know what's going on.
You've got an obligation. You've got a quota to meet.
Yes. we got to enlighten the world, Nathan.
How do they smell?
The Flat Earth guy should have stuck. The Flat Earth guy should have stuck to his main points, which is miles and kilometres are linear distances, and because that's what his point was, really. If that's what his labouring point was, yeah. So that's not been addressed as yet. It's not even been. They've gone totally off what he was saying.
So it's one massive long string of red herring fallacies to try and distract away from the original comment that we just measure Earth flat with miles. Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah, so an endless red herring. I'm smarter than you. I understand science better than you do. Here's my flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle measurements to the sun from a flat plane that prove we've got a radial value in the form of Aristophanes.
Yeah, well, it is a map. Go and look at the scale. Measured from the 0 degree baseline, that's horizontal also.
We need to
There's,
be...
there's the proof.
We
Just go and
need
look
to
at
set
that.
the example. Why isn't he? Well, because we haven't set a good enough example. So we need to be much more zen, much more chill when we're discussing this. That is to say, well, you just got flat miles on maps. End statement by us, leaving it in the conclusory state. Now, the response will be long and wordy and red herring filled. But the reiteration by us, when we are discussing this, will eventually rub off on those that we would hope would carry on the argument, even though there isn't one.
Hold on a second. I'm starting to think a little conspiratorial here. Is this guy even a flat earther? Because why would you start with that? I said everything so concise, and then he starts throwing science at you, and you don't know how to respond to that? Come on, there's something fishy going on here.
No, Neil, conspiratard. He's actually doing very well. He is where, like, One Deck and I have talked about, we've kind of been until recently, and still kind of once in a while dabble in. He's trying to stay in and spar with the punches rather than just sit there in the corner and let the guy flail.
But he still hasn't gone back to the measurements. Everything you've been reading, he's trying to answer the freaking engineer when he should be dictating the conversation and telling him, answer me with the miles.
Right. Well, the engineer's gish galloping with all kinds of big stuff, and so flat Earth guy's trying to address it rather than.
And he shouldn't.
Well, no, he shouldn't. Problem is he respects the guy, and so.
Respects the guy. I have all the respect in the world. Hold on. I have all the respect in the world. This is what I would say. Excuse me, I said nothing about science. This is geography. We're talking about measurements. I understand you have these freaking PhDs or whatever you think you have, but I specifically am talking to you about geography. Can you stay on the topic of geography, please?
He says no explanation for why Eratosthenes' geometry works. You're just lying. Well, yeah, there's an explanation. It's measured flat. I'm just going over what he's saying kind of in here.
You see, that was my issue.
If he was a legitimate fact checker.
It was the same way. I'd say, why are you going over there? Just plant your flag at the measurements, because that's when it's game over. Because they measure Earth flat too.
Exactly. Any evidence they try to provide of a globe will be a flat Earth measurement. It has to be.
Oh, I think it's important that we prove that the Earth is not spinning. We got to prove that it's not moving. What?
But if you was a legitimate guy who liked fact checking and looking into things, that kind of message that you got off that guy about linear distances and Earth has always been measured flat and dealt with like that. If that was me, I'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna look into this. This sounds quite interesting. I'm gonna take this guy up on it and just do a little bit of research behind you. Sometimes.
Yeah, but do you have all that education with you, though, One Deck? Do you have all those years of education screaming back at you?
I've got AI, mate.
Neil's contrasting it with this engineering dad guy. He's saying when you've got something that's telling you with every fibre of your mental capacity to brace against that which you've been suggested to research, that precludes you, sets you in the defensive already. The other thing I'd add is that these people always seem to have a similar variety of name. So stereotypically, the people who become anti-flirfs demonstrate their insecurities in their own name. Bob the Science Guy, Professor Dave, engineering dad. You're like, okay, so you want to lead with, I am this type of educated person. It's like, okay, that immediately suggests, not always implies, and isn't always the case, but suggests that these people have an inferiority complex.
Yes, very good.
Yeah, true, mate. Yep.
Well, the ones with the inferiority
Yeah.
complex are the ones primed to become anti-flat earthers and regress to their 12-year-old boyish state, their pubescent, messed up, chemically induced, fart-sniffing, stinky brain that they had when they were that age. Rocket ships,
Yeah.
oh,
And he's just demonstrated.
big Superman flying around in a
He's just
sky vacuum. It's all fantasy.
Yeah, and he's demonstrating it now, isn't it?
It took him a while
But
to
like you
get
say, you can't.
couple white. Go ahead. Well, now you're roboting, so I'm going to go. It took him a while to get a couple white knights coming in to stroke his ego. He had to do a good 20 posts, 20 comments, each one over several hundred words long, to flex his muscles before some guy comes in and says, I'm really impressed by your patience. I hope you have a pool or weight room ready available to work off the frustration that these discussions build. I've quit explaining facts or citing research by limiting myself to only asking people questions. So I quit doing all the work for them, has significantly decreased the number of conversations, leaving me exhausted. Thanks for all you do.
With that, another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
But when you measure it flat, it contradicts that. I'm spitting flat facts and that. And I know you don't like that. Google Maps is flat, it presents elevation profiles like that. I'm a spitting flat earth king. Sentence has a ring, doing my own thing. If earth was a big roast chicken, factually finger licking chicken, we just got the measurements missing. I'm spitting eggs and begs, begging the question lesson. I've said it before, time after time. I'm the spitting flat earth king of rhyme.